Yeah, yeah.
All right, human beings of the internet, welcome back to MisprintCon 2019. We are streaming live from Comic Town in Columbus, Ohio. I have back with me Ryan Rooks from our last segment. I also have Tavis King, and I have Keith Adams, who is the Misprint Guy. We remember that YouTube channel, the Misprint Guy? So we have a bunch of playtest cards.
That is.
These are pre-magic in some cases. These are before the game existed as we know it, and these gentlemen are here to talk to us about these playtest cards. So take it away, guys.
All right. Well, thank you. First of all, you do have to excuse us because we are a bit disorganized, but we have a large variety of playtest cards ranging from Alpha to Ice Age to even an unreleased Magic set called Spectral Chaos. Now, it did inspire Invasion, but it is officially an unreleased Magic set, and I'd say as far as Wizards is concerned, the only ones they talk about are Spectral Chaos and Unglued 2. Those are the only two that I'm aware of.
There's another bit of research on Power Lunch.
Yeah, Power Lunch. Yeah, that's like a whole left field concept that never happened. And actually, we have some Power Lunch here. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe that'd be something we start with. All right, now let me make sure. Oh, okay.
Arc Enemy?
Yeah.
Is that the name of the product?
Yeah, it did. So the three of us here have been collecting these for quite a bit, and so I think between the three of us, we can pretty well answer any of the questions that you all might have. These three deep blue cards here that I'm showing, these are from Power Lunch. And like I said, we have a really good variety, not a complete variety, but quite a bit. So do you want to talk about Arch Enemy? Because I did not play Arch Enemy.
I never played it either. I can barely remember the name of it.
Go into it if you like.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, you might notice that these cards are a little bit OP. This was Bill Rose's pet project back in the day and his favorite set, released or unreleased for a while at least. And the idea was that you would have one player that faces off against multiple other players. So there's one player that would have a special deck with overpowered cards, and then everyone else would play with regular cards, and you would see if four people could beat one if their cards were just disgusting powerful like you see in front of you. And that concept, it didn't work out in the beginning because they couldn't find a good enough way to differentiate the cards to prevent people from slipping them into their regular Magic decks and just casually destroying their friends, which is no fun. They did eventually get around to turning it into the Arch Enemy product, whereby making the cards oversized and giving them alternate backs for specifically the Arch Enemy cards, they were able to use the concept of having one overpowered deck that could face multiple others.
Yeah, and that way there wouldn't be that much of a mix-up, and we wouldn't see, 4/4 creatures for 1 mana, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, these playtest cards are hard to come by. I think when I first got these, I probably got 75 of them, and I'm not sure where more are. There's a few out there, but a lot of them got them from me. I don't know. It's hard to see how much of this you can read online, but Tavis, you want to read a couple of the cards that immediately catch your eye?
Ancestral Memories is pretty important. That's based on Ancestral Recall. Draw 3 cards from your library. The casting cost is higher than I would expect.
Yeah.
Probably in white.
Yeah,
Although typically a white to blue.
right. It is a white card, so that, I mean, I don't know.
Ancestral Recall was kind of pivotal for Bill Rose's sets. For as far as power level, he kind of used that to measure the power level of other things.
Yeah, well, it was in Alpha, the original Ancestral is actually called Ancestral Memories. In Alpha, the original Ancestral Memories was a common, and then they just thought that it's a part of the 1-for-3 cycle, and then they just thought it was so powerful that they had to make it a rare. It is unfortunate that Power Lunch didn't come out, but yep, somebody's phone. It is unfortunate that Power Lunch didn't come out, but I can see why it wouldn't. Oh, here's a dual land. So, unfortunately, like I said, I don't have a huge variety of these, but they are pretty nifty. Do you want to go into the next one?
We could.
Yeah.
If you're ready for Power Lunch.
Okay.
Before we came back here, I was just kind of sorting through these orange ones. There's a couple different orange ones.
Yeah, we have 2 different types.
I didn't quite get done sorting through them, but these should be the older ones,
Yes.
and I think these are the newer ones. There might be a few mixed up ones in there, but
We're not really sure of the timeline though. I know that was probably right after Alpha was done.
yeah, these are the older ones, and the other ones are newer. But as far as like exactly what month
So
or anything,
the
we're not
last
quite
word
sure.
on Power Lunch before it got canned would have been right around, if I recall correctly, 95 or 96.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell exactly when it fell off the map, though.
Well, one of the important distinctions to make is these small playtest cards are generally like 92, 93, 94.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, these would
Yeah.
have been the early
Right,
ones.
because we'll get to that. But see how there's this card here. This was standard for playtest cards for a couple of years.
Yeah, and this is normal card sized.
Right.
Arabian Nights playtest cards are that size. At least some.
Yeah, or really close. Really,
Yeah.
geez, I think I have them with me, but not in this room. I have the source sheets for. Okay, so we got Albert Einstein.
Straight on the screen there.
Yeah, there you go. Top row's good. We got Albert Einstein in there. We got Calvin and Hobbes. D&D art.
That's Elf Quest on the bottom.
That's Elf Quest.
A couple Moxes there.
Yeah, a couple Moxes, couple good cards. And then Ancestral Memories. Now remember, what we were saying was Ancestral Recall was called Ancestral Memories, and this was changed to 3U, and then it says, well, except treat as sorcery. So I guess they just said instant was too good.
That was part of the idea with this set, was that Ancestral Memory was too powerful and it needed to be weakened, so they raised the casting cost.
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, 2 blue you think you would do the trick, but you
Yeah.
know they went with 4. So I mean 4 total, but you know. And then many of the cards here are exactly the same as the alpha ones, which I will get to. But some of them have been changed. For instance, Soul Ring costs 2. Magical Hack costs 5. Wow, 5.
That's a lot.
Yeah, for a card that we really wasn't well received in the. Oh, I got 2. I forgot I had 2 of them.
Oh, yep.
And then counter.
Just cover one up.
Yeah, we'll cover one up
Power
with a Calvin and Hobbes art, Power Sync. It is a bit confusing, but that's kind of how Power Sync worked back in the day. One of the things. I mean, we're kind of obviously going out of order, but one of the things to note is seeing how these are based on the alpha playtest cards. See how this. See how these Moxes, they say 0/0. Do we have any other cards with the? I think it's mostly the artifacts.
Yeah.
Artifacts. What this means is 0 to cast and 0 to activate, and then the Mox says provides 1 black mana tap. So tap.
There's one with a slash in the top. That's doesn't
Yeah.
work the same way. That's
Right. That one's a little bit different. This is the earliest known version of the dual lands, and I guess it's kind of like how we have 4 magic cards now that just say lightning bolt, and you're supposed to know what it does. With the lands, I mean, see, the forest just says a G. You have this forest in your collection, right?
A similar one.
Okay, probably a different art.
Yes.
So yeah, this B/U is exactly how you would think it is. It basically, in this case, means B or U. So it's like a dual land, and then you tap it and you take your pick. So it's exactly how you would think.
And the casting cost on these is just a regular casting cost.
Yeah,
Nothing weird.
I think so. I
Like
think
with the
so.
alpha.
The
Yeah.
earlier ones were a little different.
Yeah, the alpha ones were different, but I think these are not. But I don't know. I'd have to get a hold of Joel. Joel could probably tell me. But the one thing is for sure, when Tavis or anyone really has contacted a playtester, one playtester might tell us one thing, and another playtester tells us a completely different story.
Yep.
And
Or I've had a playtester tell me 2 different things at 2 different times.
yes. So
They just can't remember everything. It's been a
Right.
long time.
I
Right.
can remember what I was doing at work 20 years ago.
yeah, exactly. So us really strange, weird, and anal collectors get a hold of them and ask them an incredibly specific question. And oftentimes they will say, I don't know. But sometimes they tell us something, and then I go, yeah, this is what a playtester told me, and I might talk to someone that's in this room here with me, and then they go, well, wait a minute. I talked to someone else, and
we all compare notes.
yeah, we compare notes, and sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes we just kind of have to go, what's the most likely scenario?
And for my book, I just had to say this guy said this and that guy said that. And that's
Yeah.
the best we can do.
Yeah.
We don't even know what's more
We
likely.
can
Right.
look at when the statement was said. Hopefully, we can get information that's closer to when the event actually occurred.
That's true. I do like
Yeah.
the earlier statements.
The really unfortunate thing is when it comes to these playtest cards in general, I mean, everything basically that we're showing you here today, the hardest part with this is there's very poor records. And the research that you are going to do online, more often than not, comes from one of us here in this room.
Yeah.
Secondary, of course. We don't just pull this information out of thin air, but we do talk to people. And like I said, unless it's written down, I mean, that's the one thing that we will say almost as gospel is if it was written down in like 1993, 1994. That's a little more like closer to the vest, a little more believable. I mean, it still could be wrong.
Well,
It's-
could be.
That's
It could
more
be.
my niche, is I have a lot of the real early internal documents
Yes.
and statements from employees.
Yes.
And those haven't always borne out, but
Oh.
I do prefer them.
Okay, well, after this stream is over, you're gonna want to see what's in my car.
Yeah.
Looking forward to
I have a stack of dizzying amount of paperwork. So, all right. So anyway, I got a little off track, but I want to just tell you that what we were telling you is what we know from the best of our ability, and person A can tell different person B. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear.
Here's
So-
a different orange set.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You can compare those ancestral memories right there.
Yeah. All right. I tell you what. Let's clear out almost
Yeah.
all of these, and then yeah, we can.
Stack those up?
Right. We can start with the new ones, but you know what? Grab an ancestral memories out of there, and we can kind of, I don't know, put it there to.
So these are also orange, but they're a different set
Yeah.
than the other ones.
And when you see them side by side, I don't know how great it's showing up on camera, but you know, there's a
There's a little color
there's a
difference.
color difference. It almost looks like, you know, going back to the paint store a year later and getting that same blue, and then it doesn't quite match what's on the living room wall. That's kind of what this feels like to me. It felt like the same thing, only, you know, maybe one was at a different store. Who knows? Left out in the sun for all we know. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of alphas.
Yeah, but they don't have artwork anymore for the most part.
Mm-hmm. For the most part, these are blank. And then a lot of the artwork that we do have, remember, this one is the one that doesn't fit, so we'll remove that for now. But also this one that might be on the screen. And then in a lot of cases, the artwork that we do see is almost lifted from something that was done previously. We are doing things a little bit out of order, but the Alpha Playtest card, that the unicorn has that specific art. And then I do remember another type that has that art as well. So it's kind of like they either stole from something that they had already been working on or left it blank, which probably was easier.
Yep, probably a matter of workload. They just
Yeah, like they
a
were
lot of work to put all those
right,
pictures on there.
right. They were like, we're in a hurry. To heck with this.
There's a few more lands there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting ones.
Yeah.
Now, do you have any of these in your personal collection that you did not get from me?
Not orange ones. No,
Okay.
I don't think
okay.
so.
Okay, but you got a couple of these from me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I figured that there was. Tavis collects a lot of specific cards. I collect a few. You collect forests. Is that the only card you collect?
Among others.
Among others.
Just
Okay.
like forests.
Okay.
Most of mine are Mirage Pink, Ice Age Blue, or Portal.
Right. But Tavis has a extremely long list of cards that he collects, and every now and again he'll send me that list, and I go, hey, look, I've got this playtest card and that playtest card. So I was unsure if something on your list fit this. I mean, I like these. The hardest part about these is I have little to no information about them. I I got these from an original playtester. So that right there tells me that I know it's, you know, legitimate, and it was in his basement forever. But as far as specific information, now the one thing that I can tell you is this is the type of playtest card that I have where the deck is super glued together.
Okay.
I don't think I brought that. One of the things that's kind of unfortunate is I moved recently, so there's a lot of things that I have that are still in boxes. And then when it just came to coming here, I grabbed a lot of things and I was like, all right, I'm done looking. So one of the things that would have been nice to have brought is this. I know I've posted pictures online, and it's literally a bunch of cards that are like stuck together, and then in a couple cases like torn apart poorly, and I have it in a sandwich bag. So I mean, there's just nothing like good to put it in.
Yeah.
And I got it from a playtester, and this was actually written about in, I think it's the Pocket Player's Guide, which was released in what, 94, I think.
Yep.
The first
Yeah.
edition.
Yeah, so a good 10, 12 pages in there. Richard Garfield, I believe, is the author, and he is talking about how two playtesters that were playfully being like this kind of weird rivalry and being kind of cruel to each other, but, you know, in good fun. Pranking each other. And so one of the things that was done was, I believe, a deck was put into a blender. And to my knowledge, that does not exist because I've talked to both individuals. Then one deck was super glued together, and surprisingly, that was kept all these years, and now I own it. And he also had a gym bag. I did not leave with this gym bag, but the gym bag was had a lot of white powder in it, because apparently what he did was dump a whole bunch of Sweet and Low in his you know, this was when they were in college. So the guy must have ripped open a whole bunch of Sweet and Low packets and dumped them in there, and that's where a lot of their Magic cards were as well. So,
And it was still there when you saw it.
yes, it still had
Years
the
later.
still had some residue. He's like wiping it away, and he's like, crap, there's some stuff in here, and let me tell you some funny stories. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard that story, and I'm like, I think Richard Garfield wrote about it in one of his books. And of course, when I got home, I found it, and I'm like, all right, my memory serves me correctly. So, you know, myself, much like these playtesters, we can get things wrong or misremember what book. But for some strange reason, the first book I went to, I was like, aha, here it is.
Just impressed he kept that thing.
Yeah. I have two Pocket Player's Guide, and one is rifled through and looks terrible shape, and the other one is like crispy mint. So
That's like a crispy mint beta, man. Those just don't exist.
yeah. Well, the one I had for years, but the other one I got from the playtester that I got all this stuff from. So,
You already knew how to play.
yeah, he already knew. Yeah, he didn't need it. Yeah. So, I mean, there was a point in time when nobody seemed to care about these playtest cards, and I was able to pick these up fairly easily. The biggest problem with most of our playtesters is I would ask them, and they would go, "Oh, geez, I got rid of them in 1995."
Yep.
So,
Gave them to one of the other playtesters or threw them away.
right, I threw them away. You know, I don't know where they are. Sadly, I might as well bring this up now. Sadly, one of the very important playtest cards that is out there is a Black Lotus, and I own one of the 3 known alpha playtest Black Lotus, and another one changed hands recently, but there is a third one, and it belonged to a playtester, and I had remained in contact with this playtester, you know, off and on, and there were specific things that this man was looking for. And recently I found something, and I was like, hey, you know, I know exactly who will want that. Tried contacting him, couldn't get a hold of him. And I'm like, you know, I thought in no way, shape, or form I had made this man upset. So I'm like, started asking other people.
That would be me.
Yes, you were one of them. And Peter Atkinson replied to me quicker than you did.
Okay.
And Peter told me, yes, he died of cancer.
Yep.
So that is obviously, you know, very sad that one of our original playtesters, one of our knowledgeable people that can help us with things like this, is now deceased. But in the aftermath, now, you know, the unfortunate thing that I am afraid may have happened is the playtest cards that he had, which was not very many, but included a Black Lotus. I don't know where it is, and I fear it is in a trash can. So, I, in 20 years of looking, have found 3 alpha playtest cards, and I know where 2 of them are at this very moment. One is in this room, and the other is in another collector's hands, but this third one, I mean, I would love to give you a happy update in the future. I really, really hope that happens. But at this moment, it's, oh, crap. Where,
Why
yeah.
it's so important for us to preserve this history.
Right,
Yeah. Slipping
right.
through our fingers.
I mean, any playtest cards at this point getting thrown away would be terrible. But with only 3 Black Lotuses from the alpha versions, there's a couple others that exist. But from the alpha, you know, basically before any Magic card was printed, I know of 3, but I fear it is 2. So I don't know. Ask me again in a year, and maybe I'll have some good news. But
Let's try.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. But you know, keep your eyes and ears open. And I can even it is on white, like a more dingy than this white paper here, and has no art. So if you happen to see this Black Lotus and it's on like a more of a
This one?
Closer. I mean, it's kind of halfway in between these colored paper, and it just says Black Lotus, and it has no art. And unfortunately, I mean, I hope some collector swallowed it up and isn't telling us, but it could be in a landfill, and that's the sad news that I have.
Yeah.
So at least this way I can get that information out there, and maybe some eyes and ears will spot it. And certainly, I would not want to reveal who owns it if they want to keep quiet. You know, I'm great at being discreet, but if somebody could just confirm to me that it exists, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. And anything else that was in that collection also.
Yeah. There were a handful of other playtest cards, but nothing like quite as, you know, unique. I mean, because if we saw it again, it's possible that I might have previously owned it, or I mean, most of the cards we can go, oh, I've seen like at least 5 or 6, or maybe 10 or 12.
Right.
But Black Lotus being, you know, Black Lotus. You kind of keep track of how many you've seen, and unfortunately, the number for me is 3. So, anyhow, moving on. I just want to get that off my chest.
So before we move on, we have a really good question from a viewer, GuruLand 101.
Okay.
Wants to know, is there a reason that different colored paper was used? Says he's seen white, orange, blue, green, etc. And what the purpose for that was.
Well, probably to differentiate them. I mean, the mindset when Magic first started was that the sets were going to be incompatible. They were not going to be playable with each other. I mean, it even took them till the very last minute when they were printing Arabian Nights to not put the change on the back. I mean, everybody knows that an Arabian Nights card has that small scimitar.
Right.
But the game plan was the sets were going to be incompatible. So it seems like the very, very, very old playtest cards, like the original alpha ones, it almost seemed to be like whatever color they could get their hands on. Many of the playtesters have stories of like sneaking into their professors, like, you know, their office when they shouldn't be there, you know, and printing off what they could. And so that's why we could easily have some variance in the paper, because it was just like, screw it, let's get whatever we can. But when it comes to, okay, this is a completely different set, and we're going to make it on blue paper, and this is a completely different set, we're going to put it on orange paper, I think it was because the mindset was the sets were going to be incompatible. So
I think a lot of the white ones and the beige and off-whites and those things are most likely whatever they had on hand.
yeah, with the alpha, the
Especially,
alphas.
yeah, because you see those coming from different places, like the Legends ones, you know, versus the East Coast ones and things like that. They're similar. It doesn't look like they were trying to differentiate them on purpose, but the later ones on the very bright blue stock, orange stock, I think that is exactly what was happening.
Right, because they still have that mindset of doing that.
They did start to put different backs on playtest cards.
Yeah.
Like Menagerie and Spectral Chaos.
Right. This is probably what we should have started with. Those are mostly alpha in there. There's some more.
find some with the
Yeah.
casting cost like this. We'll start.
Right. Right.
Maybe we can do it a little in order here.
Yeah, maybe. So yeah, so what Tavis is pulling out are the earlier alpha playtest cards that have the colored in circle. One thing I have very, very few of, maybe if you find one, is a creature that doesn't have one number but two. There's so few of those. Fire breathing.
Did we put another Hypnotic Spectre down on the table?
I do have a Hypnotic Spectre, but not in this stack.
Somebody's going crazy for wanting to see a playtest Hypnotic Spectre. Hopefully we'll be able to get to that.
Yeah.
Garrett.
It is?
Yeah.
How did you know?
I know a
Oh,
lot of things.
Small circles.
okay.
Right.
Now, you do realize what this one is, right? Do you remember everyone spotting this? This is quite possibly
yeah.
Magic's first misprint. I have two versions of this. One is on this yellow paper, and one is more on like this white paper. This is the white paper I was actually talking about with the Black Lotus. So this concept here is basically the Black Lotus that is missing. But anyhow, this is probably Magic's
Does it
first.
have a back on it?
He only sent me a scan,
Okay,
so
so
I have no idea. Yeah, he was nice enough to send me a scan. But this card here, if you take a look at it, maybe I'll give everybody, a couple seconds to read the card. Maybe they can spot what is inherently wrong with this card. And I do want to say that I think I've seen the other four, and I think the other four are fine. But due to the copy paste, somebody screwed up somewhere. And this circle protection that is for green Magic protects you from a blue source. So this is
Screen again.
this is quite possibly Magic's first misprint. Now I have a second copy. It's probably in my cube. I have a second copy, and the blue is crossed out and handwritten green.
I believe there's
Okay.
a couple other issues in the gammas, right?
I have a gamma that has no casting cost. Jeez.
I think there's one they spelled magic with a K on it.
Yeah. The circle protection. A couple of them have magic in it, so yeah. That's not too terrible. I mean, I have another card that has the word A space and the word A again. So it's I forget exactly what the sentence is, but it's like, when a creature comes, something like that. Where you're like,
Some other pre-alpha misprints that are floating around.
right. In a lot of cases, the problem is just they hadn't quite figured out the wording of things yet. So it's kind of like looking backwards from the card that we know that got printed. We can.
And they called Richard Garfield the anti-template because he could say the same thing in so many different ways.
Right.
That he earned that moniker because he would just keep messing with the rules team.
Right. Yes. They all seem to love Richard Garfield, but I do hear, words like specific or pedantic or certain words. I mean, with love, they all love you, Richard, if you're watching, which I highly doubt you are. But yeah, I mean, this is the beginnings right here. So this is probably what we should have started with.
Yeah, we should have started. Here.
But this is the very early days. At this point in time, Magic had not seen a single card printed yet. They probably didn't even know who was going to print them or how they were going to print them. They were just like, holy cow, we got this great idea.
Well, there's literally one round before this, which was with his private decks that he still holds.
I
And
think they're on close to this color.
it's,
Right.
it's a yellow.
Yeah, it's kind of somewhere in between
And so
there.
apart from his personal cards, that he just played with a few people, this is the literal earliest Magic cards.
Yeah, these are the first ones we can get. Yeah, Richard has older ones.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the ones that we saw, what is that one thing called? The alpha playtesters. It's called
Enter the Battlefield?
Enter the Battlefield. Yes. You, for those of you that have not seen this, if you have been watching this video for this long, or you've made it this far, I need to tell you, you need to watch Enter the Battlefield, the alpha playtesters,
Yep.
and you will see certain individuals. There's at least 3 people on that video that I talk to on a consistent basis, and you probably
Yep,
do now
yep,
too.
I do too,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. For some reason, they put up with us. Every time Tavis and I reply, we usually get a reply within 24 hours. So, but yeah, they've been very helpful. So I don't know. What do you want to add to this?
So there's different colors of cardstock here. These do seem to be different generations. I've heard that playtesting of this, we call this the beta generation of alpha playtesting.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that Richard took these away and gave them back, and the color could change like when that happened. So even though they're all kind of the same thing, they're different iterations. Things might change.
And the costing is different on them.
Oh yeah, the casting cost.
Yeah.
You can explain that pretty good.
Yes.
This is different than normal modern.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's start with Phantom Monster. Okay. Phantom Monster says 3 and a blue. I mean, most of you that have been playing Magic for a long time, you look at that and you read it exactly how you read a normal Magic card. However, the way that this is meant to be read with the original Alpha Playtest cards is it's 3 total mana, one of which needs to be blue. So, for instance, like I'll have a Wrath of God and it has like 4 WW. So that would mean 4 total mana, 2 of which have to be white. So, that's important. So when playing these cards, I mean.
And then in templating, like at this stage, all of the creatures only have one number that represents, their total power, their total strength as opposed to power and toughness. And there's a lot of different terminology for the abilities. Banding was called stacking. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that that's just different terminology than we would see today.
We have found some that do have 2 numbers for power and toughness.
Yeah, very few.
Very few, yeah.
Right.
It seems to be that the ones with single numbers used the same number for both power and toughness, so this would be a 6/6.
Right.
And the ones where they wanted a different power and toughness, that's why they created the 2 numbers. They thought
Yes.
maybe we want these 2 numbers to not be the same.
Every instance, I mean, like I said, it's rare, but every instance that I've seen 2 numbers, they are different.
They're different, yeah.
Right, like a wall, like an 06 wall, or I have a crawl worm, and yeah, that's 6/4, and I have a wall of stone, and that's like 06 or 08. I mean, it may not be the wall of stone that you think of as a Magic card, but yeah, it's like 06 or 08, something like that.
There's also, some of them have different backs, and that has something to do with marking where they're played at.
The hardest part is knowing what color matches what, because again, relying on everybody's memory is
But they played leagues and drafts back then in addition to constructed, so.
And there's the famous unicorn stamp.
Yep.
Unicorn stamp.
That's exactly what was
That's
running.
a little further down the road.
Right, that's what was running through my mind. I figure we'll get to it, and hopefully we have one.
Here's the next generation here.
Oh, here's some more. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the next generation here. You can see this is also an illusionary terrain, and it's a little bit different. Looks like the text didn't change too much. I guess it did change a little.
Casting cost did.
Yeah, the casting cost is the most noticeable thing. So these were the older version, generation, style, whatever you want to call that. And then this is called Gamma, which is also Alpha. Hey, cool.
Found one.
That's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah. So look at it. All these, none, and then one with the daggone unicorn.
Yep. Oh,
Oh,
there's one.
there's one.
There we
Okay.
go, I had it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, jackpot.
Wow.
So those were used during a pre-alpha league.
Yeah, that one's I have somewhere. It's probably in my cube, where it just has handwritten. It says unicorn, just says unicorn. So,
There's another one next.
okay. Yeah, that one's really.
That's a nice stamp.
Yeah, it's a nice
Yeah.
stamp. I got rid of one. Probably my one equal to that. I had a Shivan Dragon.
Oh.
I sold it to of course, a Shivan Dragon collector.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I told him. I said, no, that's as pretty as the stamps come. It was like deep, So most of them are obviously a little more faded.
Yeah. So we switched to the next round of playtesting, and that was called Gamma. And as you can see, they're all in the same color of cardstock.
And we have this right here is Calvin and Hobbes art. Okay, I'll get that on the screen. That's Calvin and Hobbes art. And we have that's D&D art right here. And then we even have, I was told, and here again, this is one of those things where I can't be certain, but I was told that this is Scaff Elias's foot.
I heard that he had a reputation for going barefoot, so that,
Yeah.
that could be true.
Yeah.
There is a conflicting story, but I do believe that Scaphalias is most likely.
Yeah, I've heard. Oh, I think I even talked to Scaff, and he's like, "I'm not sure," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah,
but
it was a long time ago.
yeah, exactly. But the pun here is it's HEAL, as in healing yourself.
Actually, this is isn't that him too?
Probably.
We got both ends of Scaff.
Right, probably. That's probably Scaff as well. Now, one of the interesting things about the Phantom Monster, well, first of all, that's a card that I collect. One of the few things that I was obsessed with pre-Magic was basically Star Wars and Edgar Allan Poe. So the one thing is, two of the cards from Alpha have a quote from Edgar Allan Poe, and Phantom Monster is one of the two. So I have, with some of the playtesters, they were only willing to give me, some of their cards, but every time I had a chance to get a Phantom Monster, I would. But the reason why I'm bringing this up, other than my personal reasons, is the Phantom Monster art was changed. And the Phantom Monster art there is Scaff, we believe, Scaff's face, but this very art is the art for Black Lotus.
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny because there for a long time, it was not publicly known what the art was. And then when I found a Black Lotus and purchased it, owned it, I, kind of struggled with whether or not to share it. And then people would say, "Oh, well, we could help you find the art." And I just kind of cryptically said, "Hey, you don't realize it, but you've already seen this art. I've already shown it to you." And so what happened was Phantom Monster switched art, and then Black Lotus went from blank, like this Destroy artifact here, to having art, which happens to be that art.
Yeah.
So,
That's cool.
yeah, so maybe Scaff really liked Black Lotus. I mean, it seems like the perfect...
good card.
Right, seems like a good card to like. I mean, gee, why would anyone want Black Lotus? So he switched the Phantom Monster. It looks to me like the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, but it is one of the D&D characters.
No, I'd heard that Scaff was basically the first art director. He was the art director for the playtest cards for him.
Yeah.
Some other people helped, but...
Right. I've talked to Scaff, I've talked to Richard, I've talked to Jesper Meerfors, who's officially the first art director.
Yeah, for the real cards.
Yeah, and unfortunately, everybody just tells me the same thing. D&D art, Calvin and Hobbes art. No one seems to remember any specifics. Like, well, there was this one book. It's always just a couple of D&D books, and then Calvin and Hobbes.
And there was
10-10
one,
is-
I want to
10-10.
say
Yeah.
Beverly Sailing. I might be wrong about that, but was actually in charge of going through magazines and cutting out a lot of the stuff to be selected for the cards.
Right. Okay.
I might be wrong on the name.
Yeah. Well.
I can ask her.
Yeah. Let's.
Yeah.
We need to get a hold of her.
I can get a hold of her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So
okay.
if someone were going to put their face onto a Black Lotus, Scaff would have been able to do that.
Oh,
That's
yes.
The person who
Yes.
chose the art for most
Yes.
of the cards.
He might have just said, "Wow, this is a really good card. I like it. I want my face on it."
And then he put Richard on Goblins.
Yes. And quick story, I did actually play against Richard Garfield using these playtest cards, and on turn one, I had a mountain and a goblin, so I was like, "I'll play you." There we go.
There's the
Yeah,
other
see,
Phantom Monster.
yeah, because that to me looks like the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, but that's actually from D&D. So Richard Garfield did beat me when I was playing these alpha playtest cards, but he refused to kill the goblins. So,
But did he use the original playtest rules?
yes, the one thing that he did have to specify, because here's the thing: my opening hand was a mountain and another land, and it had a goblins and it had a starburst. So it was just kind of like, hey, I'll go for broke, I'll win big or I'll lose big, and I lost big, mostly because
There's a
starburst. Now this is maybe there's a time walk. If you find a time walk, would that be really
See it yet.
okay? But anyhow, maybe it's in here.
Here's the corrected green circle of protection.
Oh yes, there we go. So turn one, I did the mountain, and I played him, and then turn two, I played Starburst, and I was like, I win, right? I win, and he's like, no, we're gonna play it the way it should be. So, while I'm looking, you want to explain Starburst?
Sure. So, the story behind Starburst, the cards originally you were just supposed to have the rules on the card, and so there wasn't really going to be a rule book, at least not much of one. So, with all of the rules text on the card, some of the cards were left open for interpretation a little bit, and that was fun to a certain extent, but it also made some of the rulings difficult when you were playing the game. So a lot of people would go to Richard and they'd ask questions like, "How is this supposed to work?" And sometimes he'd say that he didn't know. How do you think it should work? Because you're a playtester. And then he'd get feedback that way. And eventually they decided that the cards needed to be consistent and to work the same way. So this was one of the pivotal moments for realizing that the wording needed to be done very carefully so that you could understand what the card was supposed to do. So this says opponent loses next turn. Now that doesn't mean that they lose the game, as some people have interpreted it. What it means is they don't get to take their next turn, like they have to skip a turn. And
Think of it like Uno, I guess.
yeah.
All right, now, pardon me for interrupting you, but I found some things that I wanted to backpedal a little bit. This, like I said, is one of the rare instances of a different.
Camera a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
there we go.
Yeah, now we can see it. All right, so here, this is one of the rare instances of a different number. Like I said, I mean, of all the Alpha Playtest cards I own, I probably own like 5 like that. And then here, oftentimes we hear the Starburst called the Red Time Walk. I do want to point out that both Time Walk and Starburst existed in the playtesting at the same time.
Okay.
So, because I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh, so Time Walk was red," and I'm like,
No.
"Nah, not exactly." So I just want to show both of them on the screen at the same time. So go ahead, Ryan.
All I wanted to say was that Richard Garfield actually really enjoyed the ambiguity in the game because he loved people as part of the social aspect of Magic before it got competitive, sorting out exactly what the rules meant for themselves. And even after the release of Alpha Edition, there were cards that were a little bit ambiguously worded, and he would tell people, like, one example would be Goblin Balloon Brigade, I forget the phrasing, but it's something like goblins gain flying. Well, is that all your goblins? Is that a target goblin? Is that just the card itself? And he would tell people, sort it out for yourself, figure it out, whatever works for your play group. And so it had to be within reason, but he actually encouraged that aspect of the game.
Yep.
Yep.
He did encourage house rules and things
Yeah,
like that.
arguing with your friends. Yeah,
And
I
to
mean,
a certain extent, old school is that way these days.
Yeah.
There's so many different rule sets, and that's an extension of what Richard originally wanted.
right.
House rules.
Yeah, I would hate to speak for Richard, but I think he would probably get the most fun out of playing 93, 94.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yep.
I mean, I can say for sure that when I played against him, he was, like, he's a low-key guy, but it was very obvious that when I just showed up with Alpha Playtest cards, he was like, oh, all right then, let's
Walk down memory lane.
yeah, let's do this. And Magic had caught on, but it's not quite the powerhouse it is now. But I had a great time, and I think he did too, because you show up an event and you kind of know what you're in for, and then if somebody can just kind of throw you a fun curveball,
And the pre-alpha cards was one of the longest development cycles for any set. They spent so much time just play testing constantly and working off of it. I mean, from the people I've spoken to, it just sounds like they had a blast.
right.
But also, it got to the point where it was really well balanced, and then, these circles of people that knew each other. So I'm sure that was very nostalgic for him.
Right. Jeez. I mean, we could almost go on all day, but what do we want to cover next? You want to cover early Ice Age?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll
Yeah.
walk through all the stages of Spectral Chaos at some point.
Oh yes. We'll cover early Ice Age, and then we can cover Spectral. Yeah, we have I think all 4 versions of Spectral. Yeah, I think we
Good
got
to
all.
see them in order.
Right. Seeing as how I became the flag bearer for that group. All right. These are. You want to fan them out? I'll find some more. Those are early Ice Age.
We could compare them to some of the later ones.
Yes.
Oh, good. There's
So
some other
yeah.
message.
So we have the gray,
That's cool.
and we have the blue. And okay, now at this point in time, I believe It's hard for me to know which one of these two came first. I did talk to a playtester just a couple weeks ago, and he told me he used exclusively the blue ones. But that doesn't help me which one of these came first.
Am I
Right.
mistaken, or was there also a pink Ice Age?
That's Mirage.
Yeah. There is a set that kind of has an Ice Age feel to it, but we believe it's Mirage.
Oh,
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
mistaken playtester who thought it was Ice Age,
And
and so
I'm
that's
sure
something
that's
we
where
have
I
to
got it
straighten
from.
out. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So we are not sure which one of these two came first. But these are the early Ice Age, and I do believe that at this point in time, they had corrected what we were telling you about Alpha. So if you see this and it costs 3R, it's exactly how you think of it, like a normal Magic card these days.
Yeah.
But these were also done at the time that they thought that the set was still going to be separate. So, but then this is, unfortunately, I only have a couple of cards here with me, but trust me, these are much closer to the Ice Age set that you are familiar with. So this has a lot more alpha repeats, and yes, Ice Age does still have quite a bit of alpha repeats.
But in many cases, they're renamed.
Yes,
Yeah, like
yes.
Thin Horn Elves
And in
versus
this
Right.
Thin
case,
Horn Elves.
unlike other
Yeah.
sets, instead of progressing from one stage of development into another, they actually stopped development on it and took a big break before going later on.
Yeah.
Right, and
Because
some-
they had so many repeats.
Right, and some of the names that were changed were even changed at the last minute, and I strongly suspected this and was finally able to prove it by finding some of the art. Now, if you Google it, maybe you can find it, but the dark banishing art says Terror.
Okay.
So there's a lot of cards where if you look at it and you think Alpha, it's possible that, like, Incinerate might have been Disintegrate. There's a lot of again, poor records. So in a lot of cases, you have to talk to the artist. You have to find the art itself.
But we know when the artists were commissioned for the Ice Age work, and it was well before the release of Alpha.
Yes,
Yeah,
some
they were
Ice Age.
commissioned for these.
Right.
I believe it was in '92. I have the date. I don't recall offhand.
I have found Siren's Call that was going to be in Ice Age, and it is done in '93. So Siren's Call, and I swear I have one of the blue ones of Siren's Call. So, so there was this kind of, morphing of Ice Age, I guess you would say. Looking for Siren's Call?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here,
well,
look under the camera
yeah,
so we
you're
can
right.
see, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I swear to you I have it, but
A lot of crazy stuff happened with Ice Age development. At one point, there were dual lands. At one point, there were Moxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
And the original art that they did for the dual land for Ice Age eventually became the real art in Revised.
Oh yeah, when they lost
Right.
that one.
Right.
Yep.
And then I wonder if the Pain lands were originally supposed to be dual lands.
Yeah,
I don't
I think
know.
they were.
I don't know. It's speculation from me at this point. So I guess all right. So we'll do Spectral Chaos last. We did mention these pink cards.
Yep.
There we go. These are blank on the back, and that is an important distinction to make. You seem to know more about them than I do. You've done.
These are Menagerie. Mm-hmm. And they are pink. And these are the ones with the backs? No?
No. I'll find the ones with
so
the backs.
these are all the pink ones with blank backs. And then there's another set of them that have Menagerie backs.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Menagerie backs are second.
I think so.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I think the older cards don't have card backs,
Mm-hmm.
and then the newer ones, they started labeling. So they put Menagerie card back, and the Spectral Chaos
Right.
cards have card backs.
Now, yes. So the very important distinction to make here is this actually says Magic the Menagerie, because we think of Magic the Gathering, but they were going to originally, remember, we mentioned this earlier, they were going to make the backs different. So this was going to be Magic the Menagerie. We're going to have Magic Ice Age, Magic Mirage,
They were
Magic.
also considering Tavis Lanta, which is another role-playing product that they had.
Right.
Yes.
So.
Nothing was ever really done with that other than dream up the name. But
Right.
It's not the only one.
Yeah.
So this is, these to me are other than Alpha, I think these are some of my favorites because this is one of the few things that kind of proves this mind state that they had.
Yeah.
Sure, we can talk to people, but it's like, this is hardcore evidence. The fact that it says Magic the Menagerie. and unfortunately, I'm. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I am definitely one of the largest playtest card collectors in the world.
And that's it.
And to see, I mean, I've seen very few of these. So I know one other playtester that I've been dealing with, and he has some of these. You probably talked to him as well.
And there are some differences on the front side between these and those. The cards were changed a little bit here and there.
Yes, it's subtle, and the typeset is not exactly the same. So, there are undoubtedly more cards that are like this, but we probably have yet to uncover them. I genuinely hope that maybe in a few years we'll have.
There's some more Mirage ones. I have some in my binder.
Yeah,
Some in
yeah.
this room with me, but
Right. I have some Mirage ones that I'm working on getting from another playtester.
Mirage is probably the longest play-tested set because
It's possible that was, yeah.
Bill Rose brought it with him when he was hired on in October or '95 or maybe shortly before that. Mm-hmm. And he'd been playing with it since Alpha.
Right.
So
Well, remember that infamous picture that you and I have talked about where the students are all lined up. Do you know the picture I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
My apologies to the 99% of you watching. Like, what the hell are you talking about? But there is a photo, and perhaps you can Google it. And this image has all of the students, in college. And what is interesting is they're all kind of posing for one big long photo. And you're Googling it right now. Awesome. And in that photo, it shows, yes, that's the photo. So, can you slide that on into this chat? Or
I can if you give me just a
okay.
moment.
Well, anyhow, there's these students.
these are the playtesters.
Right. This is a large chunk of the playtesters, and there we go. And if we look at some of this information that is behind them, this is kind of one of the few timestamps that we have to elaborate. Do you recognize that picture?
Yes, I do.
Okay. This has been one of our contextual clues. I know when I'm talking to Tavis.
We talk about this picture a lot.
Yeah, we've brought this picture up a few times. So
There's Peter's in here too in the middle, and Lisa and Jesper.
And they're so young in this picture that sometimes it's hard for me to know who's who. Is that Barry? I don't know.
I recognize Joel.
Which one's Joel?
No one will see me point, but right there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's Joel. That's
Yeah.
Joel. Joel is one of our big helps. I mean, like I said, getting a hold of Richard Garfield is damn near impossible. But Joel, a few of about 3 or 4 of the people in this picture.
I think you're right. That does look a lot like Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just not used to seeing with all that facial hair. But
a few years.
yeah. Now is that Jesper on the right?
Yeah, on the
Okay.
right. The long hair.
Yeah.
There's Richard
Mm-hmm.
right there. Yeah.
Yes. Jesper is a real treat to talk to. He is extremely liberal, so if you're not, he will probably give you a hard time if he knows you are not. But nonetheless,
Other than that, he's really friendly.
yes, yes. As long as you are not a extreme right wing type of person, I've had, and I'm not. So I have had nothing but pleasant experiences with Jesper. Just warning you, depending on who.
So I've spent a couple years being friends with Jesper on Facebook and
Yeah.
having conversations with him and
Yeah.
asking questions about, because he was part of the original rules committee too, as well as being the original art director. And there are some really interesting stories he has, and he posted one on a status that Wizards posted about Magic the Gathering earlier this week, that Chris Rush wanted to be a comic book artist.
Yes.
And he phoned in the first batch of Forest Arts that he submitted, and Jesper told him, no, you take those back and do this again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so
They used to play D&D with each other.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you if you add him on Facebook, he's super interested in answering questions. If you ever get a chance to meet him at a Grand Prix, he will just give you a history lesson about the early days. And so much of what I know about the really, really early days of Magic the Gathering comes from no one was at his booth. And I said, hey, let me buy you lunch. And, I just went and sat down and talked to him for an hour and a half about the early days of Magic. And he's really into Magic history and preserving Magic history.
Yes.
And he's a super cool resource. And I've seen him even be civil with people who were pretty conservative.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he's very liberal, but he's very tolerant also of other people's opinions.
Yeah,
He's outspoken on Facebook, but he's a very nice person.
right.
Yeah.
He's
I've never seen him be derisive.
I think it's more. I think
different
I think it's just more the anti-Trump
That he
era.
puts
You
his
know.
political
Yeah.
opinions out there, but
But it's
They're
his
on-
personal
they're on his
Facebook.
wall.
He doesn't
Yeah.
really.
Right.
It's not like this isn't like a fan page that we're telling you can add. You can just add Jesper on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
And message him and say, I have questions about
Right.
Magic the Gathering, or when is the next time you're doing a live appearance? I want to sit down and have coffee with you. And
Yeah.
it doesn't seem to matter who it is. He'll just do it, which is super cool.
Yeah.
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 It's
Just
great to have someone that's
right.
approachable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Just don't have a MAGA hat in your main picture.
Yeah.
You'll be good. You'll be good. I mean, hey, you can believe whatever you want. I'm just telling you that, dealing with that individual, hey.
But
But
we're not delving into politics.
right.
Somebody said something about that in the chat. We're not. This is a judgment-free zone. It doesn't matter what you believe. We're
Right,
just
right.
making you aware that if you message him with a MAGA hat in your profile picture, he may have some words for you that you're not a huge fan of, and to be cautious of
Yes,
that.
that's all. You are entitled to your own opinions, but so is he. So I'm just putting that out there. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I've had nothing but pleasant experiences with the man, and he is extremely intelligent and extremely knowledgeable. And I know for sure there are many things that he has sold me, and I think he's given me a really good price on a few things.
Yeah.
Just because he knows that I genuinely, give a shit. You know what I mean?
I actually
And-
had a
and-
piece of art commissioned from him, an oil painting that's like 8.5 by 11.
Okay.
And even like that kind of stuff, to have him do a commission for you is really, really reasonable as compared to many other people that have done art for Magic the Gathering.
Right.
I don't want to say how much exactly it was because I don't know how he prices that.
Yeah.
But I will say that talking to some other artists and talking about commissions and things, even like Arcade Post, who does an enormous amount of commission work, Jesper's prices were really, really outstanding.
Yeah.
You do some mini Magic pieces.
Yes,
that were,
that-
they're almost like the size of the card
Yeah.
art on the card.
Yeah.
But they're recreations of the originals. But it's really cool to have an original.
It's
painting
about
that's that small.
it's about the size of this playtest card, maybe a little bit shorter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are magnificent, and yeah, I own a couple of them because again, like I said, I love the cards of Edgar Allan Poe, and he did Phantom Monster. So in addition to dealing with him and him being a great resource, I do try to support these individuals, these people that have been a great help to myself. And I know Tavis, I don't know, I might have been the first person to harass these people, but definitely in the last couple years, sometimes I'll even ask them questions, and I talk to Tavis, and he's like, yeah, I asked them a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, well, we probably didn't need to ask them.
compare notes.
Right, we need to compare notes more often.
It's better not to pester them.
Right,
I
but
want them to keep helping us.
right,
Yeah.
but they have been. I mean, most of the people that we have dealt with, have been nothing but helpful. And then when it comes to somebody who's still actively, creating art and creating this, I try to, find a good excuse to find something cool and be like, oh yeah, I'll buy that from you, because I like having art and autographs and stuff like that from individuals that have been nice to me. I've met a lot of celebrities, and most of them have been great. And the ones that have, I'm more than willing to buy their music and buy their T-shirts and buy, support them because, in addition to being a talent, they're good people. So, okay, so let's, yeah.
Spectral Chaos?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Ice Age.
Yeah, I think Spectral Chaos is about all we have left.
Yep.
So
All right, that lines up pretty well with about how much time we've got left as well.
okay, fantastic. Because I know we have to wrap this up. We could talk for 3 hours. Sure, we could talk for like 3 hours, but let's not.
We will
Yeah.
afterwards.
Yes.
So at some point, I'd love to get a hold of you guys and do like a 2 or 3 hour audio recording.
Oh,
Like
jeez,
really
yeah.
go in depth.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm about 2 hours south of him, but I'm probably the only. Where do you live?
California.
Oh.
You said you're 2 hours south.
Yeah,
of here.
yeah. I'm in Cincy.
Okay.
I'm in
okay.
Cincinnati.
I live 12 minutes from this store.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
okay.
You're local then.
Yeah, I am. So I am just my name's Mark Schoonover. I'm at Scoony Love, or I'm Scoony Love on Twitch, and I'm just a local content creator. When Morgan found out that he was going to host the event here, we sort of mutually approached each other about me coming to help with the content creation, because the first MisprintCon there was a lot of stuff that was streamed from cell phones,
Yep.
and I thought we could do better, and I thought that the community deserved some really produced content.
Thank you.
Where we
Yeah.
where we get some panels, and this kind of stuff is
I know I'm going to tune in.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going
there's
to watch this later.
yeah, I mean, so
We're-
Jason Gitlin, who this is who a majority of this recording stuff. Some of it's mine, some of it's his.
Yeah.
We sort of split the burden of bringing the equipment. Is going to take the probably 10 or 12 hours of footage that we're going to gather this weekend, and then cut it up into segments and put them on a YouTube page.
That'll be nice.
So that
Wow, okay.
So we'll have this will be a video that you can go and watch.
Right.
His presentation about how misprints happen will be a video that'll be available for people to watch who can't just sit down and absorb the Twitch VOD that's
Right.
6 hours from one day, 6 hours from the next.
Exactly.
Because it sounds like the three of us are evenly distributed across the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
There we are.
So, yeah, all right. So, okay, I did find briefly, I found,
The back over here.
sure. Now, I do want to
what I do.
point out that for quite some time, a few years, before we get into this, a few years, the playtest cards are these larger white cards. This Heavenwood Battleground is my handwriting. The interesting thing about Fallen Empires is the overwhelming majority of the cards are named differently. So for my own sanity, I just put them in a sleeve and wrote the name if it was different.
That's a good idea.
But for a good couple of years, this is how these cards are. I have them, but not with me. The Dark is like this. Legends, part of Legends is like this. Fallen Empires, part of, as you can see, Spectral Chaos, Ice Age. So that early but not very, very beginning looked like that.
Alliances was when they switched over to the ones that's like that with
Yeah.
the frame.
Right. And I have one of those with me somewhere. So anyhow, I just
There's
wanted
some
to.
Mirage ones too, in my binder.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not quite like that, but they're similar.
Yeah.
So, so anyhow, that early and mid '90s era was like that, but this is different because this is the unreleased Magic set. Now this it's called Spectral Chaos, and it inspired Invasion. Simply put, the set was started when Alpha was completed but not yet printed, and then worked on for a couple of years. And in it, the two things that are very important is it is the first time that they dealt with multicolored cards. And I know what you're thinking, like, wait a minute, that's Legends. That came like shortly after Alpha. But no, I mean, the day that they were off to the races, Barry was working on this multicolored set, and honestly, he did a better job because it made the cards work with each other as opposed to Legends, where it's just, hey, this happens to be a red white card. In this has like creatures that are blue that tap for like a white mana.
There's a lot of synergy.
Right.
And they do things that make sense for the multiple colors.
You
Yes.
can tell this was made by Alpha Playtester, and the other set was made by a friend of the company.
Right, and yes, and this Alpha Playtester, let me tell you, is one of the smartest individuals I've spent more than 5 minutes with. The guy's super smart, so I can see how he would create something so wonderful. And then the other thing that the set dealt with was what to do when you were tapped out. So again, most of you would say, oh yeah, that started in Alliances, which, is true. in the official capacity, but this is the first set to say, hey, okay, here's this card and it costs 0, and you can get a whole bunch of like black mana for your tap swamps, and just things that worked. I don't know, with being tapped out, especially.
Sort of different mechanics.
Right. So he wanted to go, okay, what did we not cover in alpha? And he did a beautiful job with that. And it's a shame that the set did not get released. But what happened was, by the time it was purchased and they were going to make it, it was way too powerful. So if this were to have come out, the best it would have come out would be like 1998. And if you
Plus
can,
Legends was already out,
right?
So there wasn't a groundbreaking multicolored thing.
Right. So Alliances and Legends kind of steals the thunder, but more importantly, Magic was like not in a position to have such amazing and powerful cards in a set. So they loved the idea. They thought that Barry did a fantastic job. So they took the concept of it and then made it more ready for late 90s Magic. And that set is called Invasion. And honestly, Invasion is one of the best sets in Magic to draft. It's so much fun.
Well, I should comment that also during pre-alpha they played with the multicolored concept for Ice Age, and using effects that were complementary between the colors in order to specifically encourage multicolored decks so people wouldn't play mono so much.
Right.
And there's a few cards that got into alpha, such as Sedge Troll, which have that, but Sedge Troll was actually designed for Ice Age.
Okay.
And so that's another piece of the multicolored puzzle.
Well, and I don't know if the cards were ever meant to be printed, but the first 2 gold color cards are actually in alpha playtesting. There's Magic Ruthie and Magical Scaff, and they cost, I think one of them's like black, white, green, or something like that, and then the other one is like red, white, blue, green, black. Something.
And we could use a ruling on Magic Scaff because something about the functionality of exactly what becomes huge means.
Yes. Well, and again, Richard probably would say, well, what do you think?
Sure.
So, yes, but
I think I'd play it like Berserk.
Yeah, I have but that seems fair. I have the magical Ruthie, but I do not have the magical Scaff card. I think it's Magic Ruthie and Magical Scaff. I don't know why. But anyhow, I have the Ruthie one, and I actually got a hold of her. And she was like, oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. Nice lady. So anyhow, what we have here, to get back to Spectral Chaos, is we have 4 different rounds of playtesting done over the span of a few years. Now, this is, again, this is the first round, so this is done immediately when Alpha was being printed, but not quite out yet. So the cards do have the updated way of like casting cards like you normally would. But it has a lot of alpha reprints. I have like a Time Twister and a Black Knight, and
this is the back of
right.
what that looks like. Same for this. Yeah.
So all round 1, Spectral Chaos has this rainbow, and then round 2 is on the blue paper and it has I believe it's
subtly different.
yes, a subtly different one. I believe it's drawn by the same person. I've only had one name tossed around.
The
in
styling is certainly the same.
Right. And then these are all blank, but in many cases, I would have like, here's another example. I would have hand-drawn art, and then in many cases there's these letters, but I'm not even sure what they mean because they don't necessarily match with the right color. See, because I mean this is a red card and it adds black mana, but it has a U, so. I can't quite crack what those mean, but this is round 3, and then round 4 is the final round, and it's on a sticker, and every card that's on a sticker says it's either Ice Age, Homelands, Chronicles, or 4th edition. Almost always commons, but on the occasion like maybe a basic land, or maybe in Chronicles because they found some like gold cards. Those would be uncommons.
So there are some of these on Ice Age cards.
Yes.
Are there any on foreign Ice Age cards?
No.
No foreign cards.
No.
Okay.
All English. Everything is English.
All right.
And it's all mostly junk. I mean, some cards obviously like Brainstorm or Dark Ritual have gained in popularity, but back then we were just like, So yeah. So they're all on commons, and I don't know. Is that the only example that we have with the sticker? Maybe.
I didn't bring mine in with me. I didn't know
If
we
you
were
think
doing
about
it.
it, they had large piles of extra cards at the WotC offices.
Yeah, they weren't using
Yeah,
it.
that they would use that for.
Right.
But I believe at that time, the European languages weren't being funneled back through the U.S., so they wouldn't have as big of piles of those at the office.
Okay.
So I wouldn't expect as many foreign cards.
The reason I asked was because with the Portal playtest cards, there's different generations of those also. There's 3 different generations. Some of the later ones, there's a few that have German Ice Age as
That's
the
very
background
interesting.
card.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do want to point out is some of these have this word called chaotic, and that was used in anything that was not in friendly color, black, green. So if it's like, say, blue-white, then it's just a sorcery. But if it's like black-white, then it's a chaotic sorcery. So I don't know. That obviously did not stick. And in a lot of cases, these cards are powerful. You know, we have a colorless Mox. We have different color dark rituals. You know, so it really would have shook up Legacy if it came out as is. But, I mean, there's some cards where you just go, oh, my God. But, you know.
To a certain extent, it undoes some of the uniqueness of each color.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know. I really enjoy the set, and I have the source material, and geez, I have paperwork for days on this set. So, Barry, thankfully, was borderline hoarding, and his wife was awfully glad that I showed up and cleaned out his basement.
I know some of the stuff he had was from other playtesters who had just given it to him.
That's
Yep.
fortunate.
Yes.
Yeah, very fortunate.
Fortunate for you know, that they didn't get thrown away. He said he sent in some alpha playtest cards to help people learn the game, and then he didn't get them all back.
Okay.
So I don't know. But if you watch the Enter the Battlefield, the alpha playtesters, he talks about this alpha playtest forest that he traded
Mox Emerald?
Yeah. He traded his forest for a Mox Emerald. I have that Mox Emerald. So yeah. So anyhow, I feel we've covered everything. I don't know about you two.
We could keep going. I think that's a good overview.
Yeah. We could go on for
We
a
might have
long.
gotten more specific than we needed. But
Right.
This is so much fun.
Right. And I mean, hey, I want to see the other people in the other room.
Do you have any of the later playtest cards handy with the frames or any such the later examples? We can just flash those on screen really quick.
No. Everything I brought was old.
And,
Now, can I
didn't-
find any of the later playtest cards on your YouTube channel?
Some, yes.
Okay, so if you're interested in more playtest stuff,
Mm-hmm.
a good place to start with that is the Misprint Guy on YouTube. That's all one word, and it sounds like he has some content
Mm-hmm.
that involves some newer newer playtest cards, as well as obviously misprint content,
Mm-hmm.
unless the name is just a lie.
yeah. It is not. Even though I have pretty well stopped, Tavis has really seemed to pick up that mantle and has covered some things that I have, but there's always more. So
And
so-
there's times where there's information that has been discovered since you made your video.
right.
So
Right. If you watch one of my early things, I say that I don't think that there's a Black Lotus playtest card, and I was thankfully able to find out that I was wrong, because I own one of them. But you know, I mean, there was a point where I hadn't seen any, so,
And so
I was
Tavis
worried.
is Tavis King, Tavis King.
yep.
2 words, exactly how you just write your name on YouTube. And also remember, we also have Ryan Rooks here. Check out his book. It's called A Collector's History of Magic the Gathering, and he is working on a second one, so keep your eyes peeled for that.
Awesome.
It's
Thank
an
you so much
amazing
for having
book.
me.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys on today.
Yeah. Thanks.
I was, had to explain to my mom what some of this was.
Oh.
She doesn't really understand Magic. And so I said, some of what we're going to have is the Declaration of Independence of Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
Like it is of that level of importance to this game that this is where the hobby that has eaten up most of my free time since I was in elementary school came from. You know, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
To be able to see
well.
some people who are really knowledgeable about it, and just to get to see so much of it in one place.
Right, I have some really cool stuff in the car that we'll cover next, and so yeah, you're more than welcome to join. Yeah, if you have questions, then that's how you can get a hold of all three of us. We're all on Facebook, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Tavis King, not Travis. That was always everybody's
No
mistake.
R. Yeah.
No R. It's Tavis King and Ryan W. Rooks.
No B's, not Brian, not Brooks.
Ryan.
Yep.
Ryan. Yes. And Keith, I also put my name on Facebook as Keith Chuck Taylor Adams because it's a nice generic name of mine, Keith Adams. So I had to set myself apart. And one thing I do is have, in addition to having way too many magic cards, I have way too many shoes. So you find Keith Chuck Taylor Adams. I hope like hell I'm the only one on Facebook. That's me. So.
All right, thanks so
we're done.
much, guys.
All right.
I really appreciate you guys coming and spending time with us.
All right, we appreciate it.